Hi you guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to show you step by step how I made these boxes. Look how beautiful that is. Really easy to make. Anybody can make these boxes. You do not need any special tools. I did everything with on the table saw. The only thing I use the router for is this profile over here. But other than that, just the table saw. And this is, look how beautiful it looks. I made not one, but I made two boxes. This is the other one. So this one, it's a little bit different design, as you can see, and also the lid, it's different. Now, the lid on this one, I used too thin of a material. I think it's only a half an inch, so my rabbit here, it's very shallow. It stays on the box just fine, but I wasn't 100% happy with that. So I ended up making one other lid, and this is different shape. So whoever buys this box, they will receive both lids, and then they can choose whichever one they want to keep for the box. So those are the two boxes we will be making. Super easy. And I'm not going to lie to you, these boxes take a long time. It's really easy to make, but it does take a really long time to make. So if you have the time, I will encourage you to try this. Let's get right into it. So we will start with this piece of, I believe it's cedar. And the reason I chose this wood for the core of the sides of the box, it's because it's a medium tone wood. It's not very light and it's not very dark. And this is important because we will be inlaying strips into this, and we'll choose lighter inlays and darker inlays. I'll be using maple for the lighter inlays. And then I cut, for the darker inlays, I cut some tiny strips of walnut. We'll have Padauk and Purpleheart. And notice these three guys over here, the darker inlays, they're almost the same kind of shade of darkness. So obviously different colors, but they are very close in the darkness or the lightness of the wood, whatever you want to call it. So we'll start with this piece of wood. This one is 2.5 inches by about 23 inches long. And I marked on the end of my board over here, because this is 2.5 inches. I marked a little mark right in the middle of it, so at 1.25, and then a 1/2 inch from each edge, I marked two other marks. And that's where I will be putting the grooves longwise onto this board, and we will inlay 3 strips of maple. So that is the first step we need to do. We need to inlay 3 strips of maple onto this wood. So let's go to the table saw, see how we do that. Now here at the table saw, I want to make sure my blade, it is a little bit lower than my inlays. So I'm just going to eyeball it first. And I believe that is just a little bit below. But what I will do now, I will run a piece of scrap, because I want to be absolutely sure that my dado onto my long strip of wood, it's shallower than this. That way this one, it sticks out a little bit, so I can apply pressure and clamp it. So that's why I want my groove to be shallower than my inlay. So I'm going to find a piece of scrap. I'll be using this piece of cedar, and I'm just going to run it through this and see how deep the groove it is. Now here is the groove that we put into the scrap of wood, and I just ran the wood through my table saw one time, and that is because my blade, it's exactly 1/8 inch. So that made it really easy to make repeatable strips, because all I have to do is plane some maple at 1/8 inch thickness, and then just cut thin strips from that. So we ended up with something like this. And now if I put this into the groove, notice I also used a flat top table saw blade, and I don't know if you can see there you go. So that way it's very flat on the bottom, and my inlay sits very nicely. So now when I put this strip of inlay, you see it just sticks out a tiny little bit, and that's enough for me to apply clamp pressure. I have to get out of the frame so it focuses on this. So as you can see, it sits flat, but it is a little bit sticking out, and that will allow me to apply a clamp pressure and make sure this thing really stays in nicely. So this is just the test piece. Now I will take my real piece of wood, and remember those 3 marks that I put over there. I'm gonna line those marks with the center of my blade, and I'm just going to make 3 grooves. Then we'll put this maple inlay in it. So let's do that. All right, so here is our grooves, and you notice I didn't have to change the fans from the first groove that I cut to the second groove because they're the same distance from the edge. So I ran the board once and then just flip it the other way and ran it again, and those two now are equal distance from the edge, and then I just put the one in the middle. So now I just need to put glue and stick these guys inside, make sure they do fit, and they do. All right. I'm just going to use Tide Bond 3 just because that's what I have. And this ketchup bottles, it makes it really easy to put glue onto the grooves. Before I do that, I'm going to use some wax paper. Make sure this project doesn't stick to my bench. So there you go. And just time to put some glue in. There you go, one. I'm gonna take this little glue brush thingy and just kind of move it around just to kind of get glue on the walls of my groove and so on. And now we are inserting our first inlay. Make your strips just a tiny little bit thinner than 1/8 of an inch if you're working with 1/8 inch blade. And that is because the glue, the moisture in the glue, it's gonna make the wood swell. So you might have a hard time sticking this in the groove if you make it exactly the same size. So that is looking good. I'm gonna do the next two. So this is what our first inlay looks, and this is what is looking from the side. And what I will do now is I will use the same wax paper. I'll just fold it in half so I don't touch that glue that is in there. I'll put this like this, fold it over, and I'll take this piece of plywood. I will put it over, sandwich it in there, move it on the edge of my bench, and I'm going to clamp it to my bench and let it dry. All right, well, here is what we have so far. We just have this 2.5 inch cedar with the maple inlay, 3 strips. I did run it through the drum sander and I sanded it flush. So that is what we have so far. Now we have to move to stage 2. Stage 2, what we will do, I marked here on the side of the board, I put a mark every 2 inches. 2 inches started from this side. So every 2 inches I have a mark. So I'll be putting the same groove, the same 1/8 inch groove, and I'll be putting it vertically this time every 2 inches. So I'm just gonna do that to the table saw. I'm gonna use my miter gauge, and every 2 inches where I put the mark, I will put the groove vertically. So let's go do that. So there are the grooves that we put vertically, and now I also marked on the edges here 3/8 from this groove, on each side I marked for another groove. So I'll be putting one groove over there, one groove over there, and those grooves will be 3/8 from this groove. That way we'll have a cluster of 3 grooves all together. I hope this makes sense. So using the miter saw, same technique, we'll add those grooves as well. So this is our board right now. We have the 3 long maple inlays and then this set of 3 vertical groove that we will be putting the inlays in it. The inlays is going to be made from this walnut, Padauk, and Purpleheart. And the way I will do it, I'll start from this side and I will go with Padauk first, then I'm gonna go with walnut and then with Purpleheart. So it's going to be something like this. Oops, just dropped one. Now, I didn't just choose this randomly. The reason why I chose this is because, well, Purpleheart and Padauk are the most colorful ones, so I put those on the sides, and I put the walnut in the middle because the top and the bottom of the box will be solid walnut, and that way it's just gonna tie it all together, the walnut from the center with the walnut from the top and the bottom. I think it's going to look a lot better. So same technique as before, I'll be putting some glue into these grooves, put these strips in. When I will glue the strips in, let me just take this off so I don't drop them again. When I will glue the strips in, I am going to go not from, let's see, I'm gonna try to put them as flush as possible to this one side. If something, I'm gonna put it a little bit lower than the edge because I will clean up the edges afterwards. But the reason why I'm doing that is because if I would just glue them something like this, then it will be hard for me to clean the edges because I will not have a straight edge reference. So if I put this just below a little bit of the edge, then this edge will stay clean so I can run it against the fence of the table saw and clean this edge. And then using this edge as a reference, I can clean up this edge. So I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna off camera glue these things in because you guys don't need to see me gluing little pieces of wood onto this. So I'll do the glue up and I'll let it dry and then I'll see you again for the next step. All right, you guys, I glued up the vertical pieces. As you can see, I also sanded down a little bit, not to the final sanding down because I didn't want to lose too much of the width, so of the thickness. So here's what we have so far. The maple lines are underneath the vertical lines. And now I'm going to add 2 more maple lines. These guys are going to be over the vertical ones. It's gonna go something like this. Just a little bit, like I could center it in between the 2 white maples. I just feel like that's gonna be maybe a little bit too symmetrical. So the way I marked it, this is where I wanna put them. Right next to the maple line, I'm gonna put one. I'm gonna leave a space for about 1/8 of an inch and then add another maple. And then in this other side, you see this is where the maple line is. I'm gonna leave 1/8 of an inch and then put this inlay maple here. So I need to run 2 grooves on the length of this board that is close to those white lines. And we'll put 2 more pieces of maple. And this is just gonna give it that interlocking look. Like, you know, some lights go over, some goes out under. So I think it's gonna look really cool. So I'm gonna go to the table saw. I have not moved my blade, it's the same height. So that should work really well. Let's go do that. All right, you guys, you saw me put the grooves on. This is what the grooves looks like. As you can see, closer to the white line on that are on the edges. And I will be gluing this maple strips in here. It's gonna look something like, let me dry fit this so you can see what it's gonna look like. One trick I will have to say is make sure you make your inlays deep enough. And the reason for that is that I made a box earlier this morning. Well, I didn't make a box. I was trying to make a box with this technique earlier this morning. And then almost when I got to the end, I sanded and I sanded through the veneer. So it became a hot mess. It removed some of the veneer that was not deep enough. So I will be gluing these two pieces like this. So it's going to look something like that. And then on the same glue up, to save time, I'm also going to attach two strips of walnut. And these guys are about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. One is going to go on that side, and then one it's going to go onto this side. And that's going to make our height of the box about 3.5 inches. Remember, we start with 2.5, and then we're adding about 1/2 inch on each side, so that will bring us to 3.5 inches. So I'm gonna glue this off camera, let it dry, and then I'll see you after. Hey you guys, now here is what this panel looks like so far. We did put those two maple inlay that goes over the vertical inlays, and now it gives you this interlocking kind of design. Also glued those 1/2 inch walnut top and bottom. And now we have to make a decision what kind of bottom we want to use and what kind of lid we want to use. If we need to make rabbets or we need to put a groove through, accept the bottom panel. So I think for this box, I will use Baltic birch plywood that is walnut veneered. I have a good source for it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. So I like using the veneered plywood for the bottom because I know it won't expand, it won't cause any trouble. So that's what I will use for the bottom. Now for the lid, I'm not sure if I will use, I could use maybe just a 3/4 inch walnut that I might need to thin out and make the rabbet on the lid to fit into the box. Or I can make the rabbet onto the box and then make a lid to fit into it. So I haven't really thought this through. I think what I will do is I'll make a groove for the bottom panel. And then I do think I'll make a very shallow rabbet to accept the panel. So that's what I'm going to do. I won't be talking while I do this stuff. I'm just going to run the same 1/8 inch flat blade through the bottom. I will run it 2 times because, my blade is an 1/8 inch and my plywood is a 1/4 inch. So I'll have to run it 2 times. I'll do it once, move the fence a little bit, run it again to accept that panel. And then for the rabbet, I'll run my piece against the fence like this, and then I'll flip it like this and run like this, and we'll create the rabbet. And then once the rabbet and the groove is done, what I will do is cut this to the 4 pieces that will create the 4 walls. I'm not sure exactly. Let's see what my size is here. So I have about 22 3/4 inch long piece. And so I think I'll make it maybe 5 inches. 5 inches by 5 inches will make a square box. So I'll be cutting miters to create a square 5-inch box. So I won't be talking from this whole process. I'll just do it quick because I want to get this glued and onto the clamps overnight. So I'm going to rush through it, but we'll do the groove for the bottom panel. We'll do the rabbet for the top, and then we'll cut it to size and glue it up. So that's my plan. Let's do it. I don't know if you guys caught that on camera, but got completely messed up. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I can get a 5-inch box, so I cut the four sides. Well, the first three, I cut them at 5 inches, and then the last piece was not enough to make a 5-inch, was only more like 4 inches. So what I had to do is cut the other 3 pieces that I already cut at 5 inches, shorten them to 4 inches. And that means now our design, it's not continuous. Our 3 lines are not kind of continuous all around. We have random lines. We have 2 in here. We have 3. We have 2. Then we have 3, 3, 1 line, then 3 lines. So our pattern really got messed up. And I think that is due to the fact that I was really trying to get this in the clamps overnight. And I wasn't thinking right. You should never rush. Anyway, I will still glue it up. We'll see what it looks like in the end. But I'm super, super bummed that I messed it up. I've been working all day on this morning. First, I screwed up the other blank. I showed you that I just kind of sanded the inlay. And now this is messed up again. It was a whole day of work that, you know, it just didn't work out. So I'm still gonna glue it and we'll still finish it tomorrow. We'll see what it looks like. All right, you guys, here we are the next morning, and here is our screwed up box. You see the pattern does not go, doesn't flow from one side to another because we lost some pieces in there. And that's okay. Today's a new day, so I remade the box. I actually made 2 of them. I made this one over here, and as you can see, the pattern continuously go all around. So super happy with the way this turned out. So I made this one, and then I also made this one. This one, we also have the continuous pattern. So this is the way it was supposed to look, the other one. Some things that I did, so I made the box. The box was really easy. You know, we cut it, we put the groove in the bottom, we attach the bottom. Then I have a rabbet that the lid is sitting on. The lid is just a square piece of walnut, so I cut a square to fit onto the rabbet. And then I added this profile on the router. For this profile, I used this bit over here. I think it's made for juice grooves. It's like a round nose. I don't know what it is, but this is what it looks like. So that's what I created this profile with. So, and then for the lid, for the handle, what I used, so for the handle, what I used, I cut a slice of one of those strips that had all the strips, the vertical strips in it. So I cut a slice of it. I had some extra. One of the box sizes was too wide. I actually started making 5 boxes at the same time. So I had some extra material. So I took some of that, a strip of that, you know, a cedar with colorful inlays. And then on this piece of walnut, you can see I just put a groove in it. And then I inserted a piece of that material that has the tiny strips. And then I cut this at 15-degree angle onto the miter saw. I cut a 15-degree angle, and then I cut another 15-degree angle on that side. And ended up, well, this one was, I messed up because the angles are going the wrong way. So now we had the narrow part on the top, and I really wanted to have this shape. So that's why I have this extra one. But that's how I made the handles. Now to attach the handle, I measured the center of the lid and the center of the handle, and then I drilled a 1/4-inch hole on each one of them, not all the way through so it doesn't poke on this other side. And then I took a 1/4-inch dowel, and that's how I connected the 2 pieces together, and now it's staying there for good. For the finish, I put 2 coats of polymerized tung oil, really, really easy to apply. You pretty much just put it on, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then you wipe it off. So I did that one day, and then I let it sit overnight, and then I put a 2nd coat. And then this morning, I applied some paste wax. I used my wax that I created on my kitchen. This is just tung oil, pure tung oil, and beeswax. So I put this wax on the box and buffed it on, and that just adds another layer of protection to the box because, tung oil and the wax, but also makes it feel really, really smooth and nice to the touch. And then when you buff it, you get that just a little bit of sheen, so it's not so matte, because oils usually gives you a very, very matte look. So that's what I did for waxing the boxes. Now, this box over here did not got the wax yet because I just applied the second coat of oil this morning. So this one will have to wait until tomorrow morning, and then I'll put on the wax. Now the wax, it doesn't have to be just on top of boxes that have been finished with the tung oil. You can put this wax on any project, even if it's poly, paint, just stain. You can put it on raw wood. When I put it on my box, you did not see a huge change in color because the box was already super saturated with tung oil, but I put it on just a raw piece of walnut. This is not even sanded, and you can see the sheen and the color that it gives it, and that's just straight on walnut, unsanded, and this is what it looks like when you apply it to just raw wood. Tung oil has been my favorite go-to finish as of right now. I love how easy it is to do. You can't screw it up. You do not have any brush marks. You don't have to deal with any of that, and it's really, really good finish. Now, these boxes will be for sale in the next few days on my website. The website name is skylarewing.store, and it's not ready yet for right now. It's still on private because I have to go to the post office to get the P.O. box. So I don't have to put my personal address on it, but it's very, very exciting. So I hope this was helpful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.